Hiya guys and welcome back. Today we've got another retro review, and I'm saying retro because it's not a classic. And we've got Ken Wiederhorn's 1989 zombie sequel, Return of the Living Dead Part 2. Is this Day of the Dead meets Goonies, or is it House of the Dead meets Macamee? That's two awful films there. I think that's a bit harsh, but what have we got?
Right. It's definitely fucking Dawn of the Dead meets Macamee, okay? This film really
House of the Dead, boy.
all right, okay, whatever. This film really tried to sort of get that sort of market of Goonies and Monster Squad, to say Monster High then.
Yeah.
And it just failed on all accounts. It was too violent for kids and too silly for grown-ups, and they kind of missed the mark. And apparently the director didn't think, I was reading up about it, didn't think the comedy and horror could be mixed, and he just wasn't feeling it at all. I know,
Yeah.
Shaun the Dead, like, for Christ's sake.
I know, of course. Return of the Living Dead Part 1. Like,
Yeah,
he's
he just,
the blueprint there.
but yeah, as a kid, I loved it. I used to own it. Even as a kid, though, I thought it was stupid.
Yeah,
And even as a kid, I thought the cover ripped off Fright Night,
of
which is one of
course it
your
did. It's a
favorite
great
films.
cover.
Yeah.
Yeah, of
So,
course.
yeah. Yeah. What do you think?
Right. Can I chuck my two pence in this one, right? Because
Go on,
I've
then.
got a lot to say, right? So, like you, right? I loved this film when I was a kid. And it's the one I always went to. I didn't own the first one when I was really young. I
Yeah.
had the second one on DVD, right? Probably rotated to that one because of the cover looking like Fright Night.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. So when I went back to all the time, when I got a bit older, I kind of rediscovered or discovered the first film. And obviously, my love for that film grew, and then my love for the second one kind of dimmed a bit because obviously it's nowhere near as good as the first one. Now, I haven't watched the film in absolute years, and we done Return of the Living Dead one the other day, so I dug out my old DVD and I watched it 2 nights ago. And I've
Number
got to
two you're
say, I
talking
quite
about now, yeah?
number two,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
So I dug number two out a couple of nights ago, and I watched it, and I have to say, I quite enjoyed it. Now, it's probably a bit of nostalgia kicking in, right?
Yes,
Because I
yes.
loved it so much when I was a kid, and sometimes those feelings don't go away. And about 20 minutes into the film, I was like, oh my God, you know, I'm quite enjoying this. Now,
Yeah.
obviously, if you take away the first film and put this up against 90% of the zombie movies out there, because it's one of my favorite genres, but it doesn't have a big back catalogue of great movies,
Yeah.
it stacks up well against some of the other zombie movies. Now,
Yeah.
if you erase the first one, it's not a bad movie, and I had fun with it. Obviously, you've got Thom Matthews coming back and James Karen, but they play different characters. You've got Joe and Ed. My feelings are maybe the script was written with these two different characters in there, and they just brought them back because they're obviously
Yeah.
so iconic from the first film.
But yeah.
But what's strange about this one, right, is they play different characters, but they say some of the same lines. They're in similar type of work, but they're robbing things from dead people. There's even a line, watch your mouth, watch your tongue if you like this job.
Yeah.
But there's one bit, right, that's confusing, is they've obviously hired these guys back for the second film. They were, like I said, iconic from the first, and they wanted them to come back to try and get some eyes on the movie. But there's a bit when they're in the back of the car, right? And Thom Matthews goes, "Ah, I'm getting like deja vu or something, like
Yeah. It's
this
like
has
a dream.
all happened before. It's like a
Yeah.
dream."
Yeah. I've been here before. So it's like, is that meant to be funny or meta or like
I don't know because and there's so many things that obviously it is a sequel and
yes.
there's loads of moments in the film where they go well like the soldiers are going not again. Do you know what I
Yes.
mean?
And it's the same guy playing the soldier. Uh
Oh, I didn't
yeah,
know. I didn't
yeah.
put
I'm
the yeah,
almost
of
positive.
course. I
The
didn't pay attention to who the actor was.
See, as a kid, when this came out, I was so excited. Oh my God, Return of the Living Dead Part 2. I remember seeing the trailer was on TV a lot, popping
Yeah,
up
yeah,
quite late in the night. And I just couldn't believe my eyes. I loved Monster Squad. I loved Goonies. And I
yeah,
looked
yeah,
and I saw a kid on a bike. I thought, oh my God, they're going to nail this. And I did love it at the time. But even as a kid, I think it came out 89. I was 10, maybe 9. Okay. And even back then, I was a stickler for continuity. I thought,
yeah, yeah,
how are they in it? They're
yeah,
different
yeah,
characters. It's not a remake because the soldiers in it. And how are the zombies not running anymore? They're slow. I think they don't run this one. They just walk slow.
This graveyard is a bit older than the last one, so they're a bit more decayed, all right?
Yes, and
Some non-zombies can't run, you know?
also, okay. Um, hang on, there was a skeleton with eyes in the first one.
Yeah,
We're going
true.
round like Army Darkness.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also the whole point of Return of the Living Dead is that you cannot kill these fuckers. You can only burn them. They can electrocute them in this, and they're dead. It's like,
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
of
fuck
course.
off. It's
Look,
ridiculous.
like I said, right, if you stack it up against the first one, it is an awful film and it doesn't even come close to capturing the magic that the first movie got, right? But I had a lot of fun with this one and it actually got a fair few laughs out of me. Some scenes that I forgot, in
Which bit?
particular, one of the zombies is coming out of the grave and she's got glasses on a string around her neck and she can't
Yeah.
see and she puts her glasses on.
Yes, again,
Proper give me a chuckle. There's so many bits in it, right? And the special effects are fantastic as well. There's a scene where one of the zombies gets shot with a shotgun and
oh,
is
his
tossed.
legs.
Or
Yes.
yeah,
I give kudos to that because it is a good effect. But there's a scene in it that always bothered me, even when I loved it. When Brenda, the girlfriend,
yeah, yeah.
just submits to
Oh, I
Thom
know,
Matthews and
I
go on
know,
then, eat my brain. She's like, it's like, what is this scene? How is this written?
I
It's her.
know.
He's cutting through her skull, and she's just like almost like as if
Yeah,
it's a sexual thing or something. It's ridiculous. Yeah,
there's another character that I tried to hate as well because he was clearly a new rendition of Ernie, and it's
yes,
Philip Bruns. He plays Doc Mandel, and he kind of takes the mantle of taking these guys to the hospital. Then you've got that recreation of the scene where they're ill in bed, and
yeah,
he tells everyone that they're not living anymore. It's a complete recreation from the first film,
yeah.
and I tried to hate him because I was like, he's just trying to be Ernie. I enjoyed him. I actually enjoyed him. He's quite funny. He's quite quirky.
Yeah.
Obviously, they got an actor who kind of looks like him. He's got the big eyes and the
Well,
similar
yeah,
facial
I know you
expressions.
probably know this, but Ernie did try out for the part of the Doctor. What's
He
his
didn't
name?
get it.
Didn't get it. He
Doc
applied for it.
Mandel.
Doc Mandel and Ernie.
Yeah.
What's the actor called now?
Philip Bruns.
No, the guy who played Ernie in the first one.
I can't remember his name now.
Oh,
Played in
well,
the last
anyway,
one.
he
Yeah.
tried out for the role and he was quite pissed off. He's like, but I think they thought, look, we'll keep
Too
those two
many.
blokes, but come on, we're taking the piss now, and
Yeah,
this
yeah.
is ridiculous. Turn into airplane or something. The only
My no, you go on, Jokes. Go
the
on.
only character that I thought was memorable, characters I liked. I didn't mind the boy.
Yeah.
He was a perfectly serviceable kid in the film. He was. I don't think he's gone on to anything after. I think he might have
No.
quit acting. But I think the cable guy. I think he was a particularly memorable, sort of likable
Yeah, yeah,
character.
of course. Yeah.
And I like the
Typical
doctor.
suburban boyfriend.
Yeah,
Yes,
yes,
I like the
I like the
doctor.
boyfriend. Obviously, it's the '80s, so she had to be doing aerobics in the living room. That's like the law of '80s
Yeah, of
movies. Yeah,
course.
yeah.
I didn't know it was set in the 80s until I seen that. But I was like, this film was made in the 80s.
um,
Um, do you know
Also,
my
as well, one
biggest
more silly thing, right, is that the canister rolls down a hill, right, and ends up in that sort of storm drain or whatever it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And those two bullies then, okay, which is probably the scariest thing in the film, um, he they enter a random code and it's like, but you didn't need to do that. The thing's been damaged, it's rolled off. You could just give it a whack again. You've repeated everything else.
You
I was like, no, we're not repeating that.
y
That's
yeah.
pushing it. We're gonna have to put a random code in. How the fuck do they guess it?
Any code works.
I know.
It's a special canister, right, that only the army can get into, but
Yes,
a little kid puts a random code in.
yes,
My biggest takeaway from this film, right, and my biggest annoyance with it is that James Caan, right, in the first movie is so iconic for being overbearing, right? The way he mourns and falls on the
yes,
floor, he just becomes a complete buffoon, right? Soon as he starts getting ill. And it's one of my favourite parts about the first film, right?
yeah,
Now, in this one, they went, that really worked in the first one, right? Dial it up to 10. Now you've got to spend more time with him and not just in one room. He's travelling from the suburbs to this Doc Mandel's place, going through houses and, escaping zombies and stuff.
yeah.
and it becomes so insufferable, right? That a few times I was like, "Oh my god, this is
Yeah, he's
horrendous.
the guy.
It's too much." But
Yes.
they've got to travel, see, a fair distance to get to this place, and it works well in the first film because they're in one location. Oh, when they're trying to get somewhere and he keeps falling over and screaming and shouting, and you can see the other
Yeah.
character getting frustrated.
Oh, it's a and
That was my biggest thing, and I was like, "Ah, this is too much."
do you know this? When I was a kid, right? The screwdriver. Get that damn screwdriver out
Yeah,
of my head. I loved it. I was telling everyone in
that was a
school.
good impression.
Well, you know.
That was spot on.
Get that damn screwdriver out of my head!
Uh, that line, I was repeating it in school, and I was telling you got to watch this film, and everyone was watching it, and they were all reciting that line. Watching it now, I know, like I said, I would say, "Oh, I'm not a target audience." It's an
Yeah,
18 certificate. It's not as if it was.
yeah, of
It's not
course.
like watching Teletubbies. It's like, oh, it's not made for me. It was made for me. No, as an adult, it's too silly, and when Thom Matthews and James Cameron's characters turn up, and they're screaming, and he looks at the girlfriend, they scream at the same time, and it's just too slapstick for me, painful.
It is. I've always been a fan of slapstick scene. Now, it is a bit too silly, right? But I have always been a fan of slapstick movies. You can tell from my background that I love those
We
type of
say
movies.
shit movies. Sorry, slapstick. Sorry, but you cut out. You
Slapstick.
cut out. You did. Sorry.
Let's be honest, Jenks, I do love a shit movie. But for me, Jenks, unlike you, right, nostalgia can stick around for me. Now, if I loved something when I was a kid, I usually like it when I'm an adult just because of that enjoyment
Yeah,
of watching something when you were young that you probably shouldn't have been watching.
yeah.
I'm not suggesting anyone watch this, and I'm not recommending it to anyone. I'm only saying, right? I'm only saying that it's nowhere near as bad as people may tell you
No,
or
it's
you
not.
may think.
It's not.
Erase the first movie, and on its own, it's a really, really decent zombie movie. 10
Yeah.
times better than
Uh,
90% of the ones out there.
right. I'm gonna I'm gonna say some good points of it to leave. I don't want to leave on a negative note. The good thing is, if your kid likes horror and they don't want to watch things like Goosebumps because they're a little bit too mild, this is a good gateway movie. It's gory
Yes.
enough for kids to enjoy, and you can stick it on and they'd be fine with it. I like this idea of the army evacuating it, but forgetting there's a new housing estate that's kind of off the map because they're new builds. That's a good idea. It makes sense. Um, that's it. I haven't got
That's it.
anything else. Yeah, that's it.
I love the pause, and
Yeah, well,
that's it.
I thought I had something else, but that's it. Yeah, I like those things, and it's not the worst film ever. Okay,
No, it's
yeah,
not. Well,
um,
thank you. I thought this was going to be ruthless because I
yes,
quite enjoyed it and you don't. So I
yes.
thought it would be
So
worse.
I leave it at that on a positive note for me.
There we are then, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you on the next one.
And subscribe. Cheers, guys.